The early 19th century was an era of profound and rapid change, a period of epochal transition that redefined Europe and its culture. Political and social revolutions, such as the French Revolution and the Napoleonic Wars, had shaken the foundations of the Ancien regime. These crucial events brought about a new geopolitical order and a profound reflection on individual and collective identity. In this turbulent landscape, we witness the meteoric rise of Romanticism, a cultural movement that permeated every aspect of society. It arose largely as a reaction to the Enlightenment and rationalism of the previous century. Romanticism exalted emotion, the irrational, and sentiment as opposed to cold Cartesian logic. This new sensibility led to a true revolution in literature, art, and thought, radically transforming the way we perceive the world. It was not just a change in style, but a profound redefinition of human values and perspectives. Artists and intellectuals sought new forms of expression to explore the human soul and its relationship with history and nature. Italian Romanticism, though part of a European phenomenon, acquired distinctive and peculiar traits. It was distinguished by a more moderate orientation and a strong connection to Catholic tradition and civic engagement. This often differentiated it from the more extreme currents of Romanticism beyond the Alps. A key aspect was the strong focus on individuality, with the rediscovery of the ego and its complex internal dynamics. The romantic hero was often an exceptional individual, tormented and misunderstood, searching for his own authenticity. This led to an introspection unprecedented in the history of literature. At the same time, enormous emphasis was placed on emotion, considered a privileged path to truth and beauty. Feelings such as love, melancholy, nostalgia, and the sublime became central themes in artistic expression. Art was intended not only to educate, but above all to move and emotionally engage the audience. Another distinctive trait was a profound interest in history, no longer seen as a mere succession of events, but as the place where the spirit of peoples manifests itself. History became a source of inspiration for the construction of national identity and for understanding the present. There was a revival of the Middle Ages and the historical roots of nations. Finally, a marked focus on the nation developed, understood as a community of language, culture, and traditions. In Italy, this translated into the Risorgimento ideal of a united and independent Italy. Literature thus assumed a civic and pedagogical role, contributing to the formation of a national consciousness. From this fertile cultural soil, two key figures emerged who would profoundly impact Italian literature: Alessandro Manzoni and Giacomo Leopardi. Despite their profoundly different worldviews and styles, they embodied the tensions and distinctive features of Italian Romanticism. Their works remain pillars of our literary tradition to this day. Alessandro Manzoni is universally recognized as the leading exponent of Italian Romanticism, an author who succeeded in reconciling romantic sensibility with a profound ethical and historical sense. His influence on the Italian language and culture has been immense and lasting. His work helped define the literary identity of our country. His most famous work and an undisputed masterpiece of Italian literature is The Betrothed. This novel represents not only the pinnacle of Manzoni's production, but also an unsurpassed model of the historical novel in Italy. Its publication marked a decisive turning point in the national literary scene. The genre to which The Betrothed belongs is indeed the historical novel, a literary form that Manzoni elevated to unparalleled artistic heights. He combined narrative fiction with accurate historical reconstruction. The goal was to revive past eras to illuminate the present with moral and social lessons. The novel's main plot recounts the complex events of Renzo Tramaglino and Lucia Mondella, two young engaged couples thwarted by a powerful local lord. Their love story becomes a common thread through an oppressed and divided Italy, allowing the author to explore universal themes. Their adventures lead them to confront injustice, famine, and plague. The character's setting is 17th century Lombardy, then under Spanish rule, a turbulent period of history marked by great poverty. Manzoni describes the customs, traditions, and injustices of that era with incredible realism and precision. This historical backdrop is not merely decorative but essential to understanding the events. Through the misadventures of his characters, Manzoni offers an in depth analysis of contemporary society, highlighting power dynamics and the suffering of the humblest. He explores the corruption of justice, the arrogance of the powerful, and the resilience of the common people. His narrative is rich in details that paint a vivid picture of everyday life. The author does not hesitate to harshly criticize the powerful and their arrogance, contrasting it with his exaltation of the moral and religious values of ordinary people. He shows how faith and solidarity are the only true anchors in a world of injustice. His work is a hymn to the dignity of the oppressed. A fundamental concept that permeates all of Manzoni's work is that of divine providence, seen as the force that guides human events. This theme offers a theological and moral interpretation of the character's suffering. Providence is not an easy solution, but a constant presence that offers hope and meaning to life. Providence is defined as faith in a superior divine plan that, though often through inscrutable means, guides the events and vicissitudes of human existence. It does not eliminate evil, but offers meaning to suffering and a path to redemption. It is a force that acts profoundly yet is not always manifest. According to Manzoni, this providence manifests itself and guides individuals through suffering and injustice, often revealing itself only in hindsight. Life's trials become instruments of purification and spiritual growth. It is a consolation for those who suffer and a warning for those in power. Manzoni's work, particularly The Betrothed, constantly invites reflection on faith and hope, even in moments of greatest despair. The message is that divine justice, though slow, ultimately prevails over human wickedness. This offers profound and universal comfort. In addition to his celebrated novel, Manzoni also wrote other significant works, particularly historical tragedies. These works demonstrate his predilection for drama and his ability to analyze major ethical issues. These tragedies cemented his reputation as a committed author. Notable examples of his tragedies include The Count of Carmagnola and Adelchi, both focusing on historical figures and moral dilemmas. In these works, Manzoni explores the conflict between the individual and power, destiny, and freedom. He seeks to reconcile historical truth with poetic invention. The themes of these tragedies are predominantly historical and political, but always imbued with profound reflections on justice, freedom, and the role of providence. Manzoni uses the past to comment on the present, offering insights relevant to every era. The search for historical truth is always at the heart of his investigations. All these works reflect his worldview, characterized by a profound moral and religious sense and his staunch adherence to the values of historical Romanticism. Manzoni demonstrates how literature can be a tool for civic education and spiritual upliftment. His cultural legacy is immense and enduring. Giacomo Leopardi stands out in the literary world for his radical and profound pessimism, a worldview that makes him unique. His poetry and prose are imbued with a keen awareness of human suffering. This leads him to intense reflection on the human condition in the universe. The essential characteristic of his pessimism is the painful awareness of the inevitability of human suffering and unhappiness as an intrinsic condition of existence. For Leopardi, happiness is a fleeting illusion, while pain is an inescapable constant. This realization is the starting point of his speculation. Leopardi's pessimism develops primarily along two interconnected yet distinct lines. They represent different phases of his thought, yet maintain a common core. Both directions contribute to defining his tragic vision of existence. The first is historical pessimism, which sees the corruption of human nature not in original sin, but in the advancement of civilization and progress. According to Leopardi, primitive man, closer to nature, was less aware of his own pain. The illusions generated by nature were stronger. Progress, reason, and civilization, by destroying illusions, would have revealed to man the harsh reality of his unhappiness. This acute awareness of truth leads only to despair. Truth is understood as the revelation of the nothingness and vanity of human affairs. The second direction is cosmic pessimism, an even more radical vision in which unhappiness no longer depends on history or civilization, but is a universal condition. Nature's indifference toward humanity and its destiny is the cornerstone of this phase. Nature, once a benign mother, reveals itself as a cruel stepmother. Leopardi understands that suffering is not a punishment or a mistake, but a structural fact of existence extending to every living being. Nature creates beings and then destroys them without any pity or concern for their pain. Man is an insignificant speck in a hostile universe. His major works, which reflect and develop this worldview, are the Canti and the Operette Morali, two pillars of his literary output. Both collections explore the themes of his thought with depth and lyricism. They demonstrate the extraordinary breadth of his genius. The Canti are his celebrated collection of poems, in which he addresses themes of love, death, nature, and the human condition with unparalleled lyricism. Each poem explores pain, hope, and lost illusions. Formal beauty marries conceptual depth. The Operette Morali are philosophical dialogues and essayistic prose, often ironic and sometimes satirical, on major existential themes. Through allegorical and mythological characters, Leopardi explores the vanity of existence and the illusory nature of happiness. They are a masterpiece of philosophical prose. Among his most emblematic poems, La Ginestra o Il fiore del deserto stands as the apotheosis of his thought and spiritual testament. Composed in the last years of his life, it summarizes and transcends his previous reflections. It is one of the pinnacles of Italian poetry of all time. The symbolism of the broom is central to Leopardi's message, a humble yet resilient flower growing on the slopes of Vesuvius, a place of destruction and death. It embodies the ability to adapt and the tenacity of life in the face of nature's destructive power. It is a symbol of resilience. For Leopardi, this flower represents human heroism and solidarity in the face of the tragic indifference of the cosmos. The broom blooms amidst the ruins, unyielding to pain but accepting its own fragile existence. It is a warning and an example for humanity. The final message of the Ginestra is a call to awareness of our shared destiny of suffering and the need to unite in a social chain. Only solidarity and brotherhood among men can offer a tenuous but dignified resistance to cosmic evil. This unity is the only form of heroic opposition to fate,